So, I mean, people say to me, how do you describe New Zealand cuisine? Well, what is it? I always say it's the quality of our ingredients. That's what defines us.
Joining us on the year in review from 2024 and looking forward to 2025 in seafood trends is our master fishmonger mate from Yellow Brick Road Fishmongers in Wellington, New Zealand, Martin Bosley. G'day, Bos.
Greetings, John. Greetings. How are you?
Very well. And how's things in the land of the long white cloud?
Oh, they're not bad, mate. It's always grey underneath this cloud. We've had got a good couple of weeks that look like summer, but it's gone back to being pretty shitty weather again now. But things aren't too bad. All in all.
How have the market conditions been through the year in New Zealand? I mean, we've certainly seen a fairly tightening economic situation around the world. How's it been?
There's been some pretty strong headwinds here, with, our GDP figures that came out, I think it was yesterday, not great, showing the country's actually in a bit of a hole. So things aren't looking too good there for the next year at least. And I think the price point of seafood now, it's kind of putting it up there as a luxury item, really. So that's always a struggle, with that demand. But exports have been good. America's still quite good. For us in terms of exports, I think we're probably 2025 should be good in terms of I guess a bit of significant growth and sort of transformation of the industry. Because there are some positive things happening here. There's plenty of sort of more government support, etc.
What sort of challenges have you faced during 2024? We've had certainly some other regions have had issues in relation to labour shortages or freight costs. Have any of these sort of things affected the availability and pricing of seafood in New Zealand in this year?
Freight costs here have gone through the roof, and so that's affected pricing terribly. We haven't seen so many problems in terms of labour on the fishing side of things, but definitely labour on the hospitality side of things. There hasn't seemed to be much change there. The restaurants still seem to be scrabbling for not just decent staff, for any staff. So we've seen that shift away from whole fish back to fillets. So we're probably doing more value added, I guess, into those restaurants, which of course, as you know, that just drives the price up even more.
So convenience is becoming a bigger driver of sales into the food service.
Yeah.
Totally.
The more we can do at our end, the more attractive we are. That seems to, that's definitely a bonus. And some guys are prepared to pay for that. They go, that's fine. I can't be having whole fish in my kitchen. I just don't have the time. I don't have the skill level. I'm just watching them butcher the fish every day that is here. So just give me fillets. It's a common thing.
The known cost of a fillet or a portion coming into a food service venue must be giving them some sort of economic comfort that they know exactly what the cost is when it hits the plate.
Yeah, they know where they're sitting, but freight does still seem to be, our challenges, both in terms of cost, but also in terms of reliability with the freight network. Given that we are two, we're not very wide islands, but we are very long and very thin. The effort to try and get freight from one island to another is almost Goliath at times. It's just this massive effort that. I had a recent meeting with our account manager from one of the courier companies and said that in the time it took to get some fish from Dunedin to the far north up into the Bay of Islands, and it got lost along the way before they recovered it, I'd ordered a T-shirt online from a website in America and it arrived at my doorstep, and I live in a small country town. I'm like, how can that be? We can't. It can take 7 days from one end of the country to the other. So those could be challenges.
How about the environmental factors? How's that sort of been on the landscape in seafood for 2024? Are chefs as demanding or aware, or are they sort of softening on those issues?
I think one of the big differences that we have here with not just the Australian market, I think, but globally, is that pretty much all our seafood here is wild caught. As you know, we've got a very relatively small aquaculture industry. Which is slowly expanding, and there's work being done in that area. But for the most part, fish is wild caught, so therefore we're really weather dependent. So when the seas kick up, no boats go out. It's as simple as that. There's just no fish around. And then you factor into that quota on top of that, the TACC or whatever it might be that they're operating under, then that can also affect, the quota, what they're catching. Have they filled their quota? And so now they're just catching the bike, the smaller catches or the lesser known species. So we kind of get hammered by that. Winter can be a really tough time for us to get our hands on seafood. Especially when it comes to, say, our oyster farms and mussels, because as you know, that once we get 30 mils of rain, they have to close the farm for 3 days. So that's something that's no oysters for the next 3 days, and for every mill over that, it's another day's closure. So we've had farms this year that have been closed for 7 or 8 days,
presenting some fairly significant challenges. So
yeah, it does. It does.
how about species diversity, Boz? What species have been sort of the hot favourites in New Zealand in 20?
Snapper is still everybody's favourite fish. When I say everybody, I mean the chef's favourite fish. I don't necessarily think it's the consumer's favourite fish, but it seems to be what chefs prefer giving to them. I do a little farmers market once a week, and I keep telling my chefs, I said, what I sell at my farmers market is a pretty good indication of what I think you should be buying, and that's the Gurnards and that's the blue cods. Those other species, because that's what I see the consumer looking for and buying. They're not looking for the snapper or the tarakei, those sort of relatively more common fish. We're seeing, I guess as with investment in aquaculture, sort of crayfish power, kingfish, obviously, then that might start to transform what chefs are getting excited about as well. Once they start to see that, I guess there's a bit more reliability in terms of supply coming their way. We know how big it's going to be. We know you're going to have it because it's farmed, rather than, look, if the boat lands and it's got some, you might get one. We take, let's say, for kingfish, wild caught for kingfish, and until it lands, I've got no idea how big it is. So, I get chefs that order, they order a kingfish, it could be 3 kgs, it could be 10 kgs.
Yeah, right. And just on that point, are you seeing a shift in that preference or recognition by your chefs for farmed seafood, or imported for that matter? I noticed that the last time I was in New Zealand, there was a surprising uplift in the range of imported seafoods that seem to be on menus these days.
Yeah, I think that's largely driven, that demand for the imported seafood is largely because often they can't get it domestically. And all that seafood that's coming in has been frozen, so therefore it's available. Right. And because obviously one of the other things we've seen is as the market has changed, hospitality is still really sluggish. It's still tough post-COVID. They're getting fish in that they can just take 2 kgs or 2 fillets out of the freezer and defrost that for the night, rather than have 5 kgs sitting in the chiller that may or may not sell. So there's a bit of a push there for some chefs, some restaurants on that. But again, they increasingly, we've got chefs returning home who are looking for fish either similar to or the same fish that they have been working with overseas. So, they're looking for that. I think I've said to you before, I keep getting asked for razor clams all the time. We just don't have them here. But, it's like because they all come back from England going, I want razor clams, I want razor clams, I want razor clams.
Yeah. And with the chefs, how the new, the chefs in New Zealand balancing, traditional seafood dishes and expectations from consumers with innovation, modern preparation?
I think there's still there's definitely a level of innovation out there, but we've also seen a shift to playing it safe. Let's not go crazy here. In terms of getting the customer in, let's not try and be too innovative or be experimental with them. We're just we're really grateful that they're here. The restaurants that are really busy are the ones that are playing it safe. That are playing like that bistro line down the middle of steak béarnaise, grilled fish with some green beans or asparagus on the side or whatever. They're keeping it simple. The restaurants that are out there that are pushing those boundaries, there's few of them. One of the things we have seen this year, especially in Wellington, has been a high number of restaurant closures. A high number, 3 last week, pre-Christmas. That's not good. And those So yeah, I think there's a nervousness about being too clever, being seen to be too clever or too highbrow, you know?
Yeah, right. So within that innovation sort of band, are there any sort of standout techniques or dishes or chefs that you've sort of seen define 2024 in seafood?
I think, I mean, they're still playing around with the idea of aging fish here. I mean, they're still following, St. Josh Noland along his path still, which I'm still not entirely convinced that's the right route to be following. But it's, there's a lot more curing and own smoking of fish going on. There was seeing like chefs wanting to sort of, get into smoking their own fish now and or curing their own fish, which is quite interesting because we don't have many smokehouses in this country. Smoked fish really isn't that big a deal. So we're starting to see them like play around in that space, which I think would be kind of interesting to see where that goes.
That's cool. And what about the raw fish trend that we're seeing sort of like just as a tsunami across food service everywhere else in the world? How's that in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's still, it's always been a good thing here, like as in like a strong point for restaurants. Most restaurants would have a raw fish dish on their menu. I think one of the things I like about it when restaurants do that is that they're putting a line in the sand or about how fresh their fish is. So we encourage the idea of putting a raw fish dish on there because there's nowhere to hide behind raw fish. So that still remains a strong element. I mean, you got kids here taking sushi to school for lunch. It's become like an accepted norm now. I mean, I've got people that I give the off-cut sparfish to every week because they just take it home and have it raw as a snack while they're watching the news. A little dish on the side. So people are doing it at home as well. As well as in the restaurants. There's a lot more, I think, knowledge out there now about how easy it is to do and how good it is, and also the health benefits of it as well. Right? People are buying into that as well. I'm going, this is good for me if I do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, looking forward into 2025, are there any sort of new species that you anticipate becoming popular next year, or either locally or nationally?
I mean, personally, we're going to start working with the guys at Huck Kingfish from next year, which we're quite excited about. What that represents for us. We've got the Caviar Club guys with their whitebait caviar. They're kind of really trying to finesse and work that product, into something that's unique. There's an innovation there around that, how they're doing that. So I think they're on the right track there about doing positive things. But I think it's, it'll be interesting to see like again whether where these developments in aquaculture go. Like there is the Cawthron Institute's doing a whole lot of work around those sort of, I guess, diversifying to higher value species, like the power, the crays. There's advancements there, technological advancements in open ocean farming. So the Cawthron Institute, they're looking at developing a system that you can get the cultivation of multiple shellfish in a single farm. So that way the improvements there in salmon farming, feed conversion ratios, sustainability. There's really good positive work being done in that space. So while we might not see a new species being introduced, we're definitely seeing innovation into existing species being introduced, and that I think is positive for the industry.
Yeah, that's exciting. And one of the things that I always get fascinated about is in New Zealand is the embracing of food tourism. How important do you see food tourism to the New Zealand seafood industry? And I guess what are you seeing in regards to what's coming up the pipe in 2025 in that space?
I've been a big advocate for food tourism for this country for what feels like decades now, John. It's one of those invisible exports that we can absolutely totally pursue here when people go away, having had a holiday here. People say, how was the food? It was amazing. What did you have? What seafood? Again, because like the rest of the world's eating farm fish on a regular basis, most of our fish is wild. A lot of people have never had wild fish. So, I mean, people say to me, how do you describe New Zealand cuisine? Like, what is it? I always say it's the quality of our ingredients. That's what defines us. It's not that the Italian background or the indigenous Māori cuisine or anything like that we hang our hat on. It's just that we have got exceptional quality produce here. that is available to us just, on a daily basis, right? You don't have to search it out. It's just what it is. It's just what we grow. It's what we harvest. So that food tourism is just, I think it's just really key to our future growth in terms of that tourism sector as well, and pumping it. I mean, people often say, I was really surprised by how good the food was. I'm like, really? Like, what did you expect us to be eating here? We travel too, and we bring those ideas back, and we adapt those ideas to the ingredients that we have here, and sometimes that's they can be better than what we experienced overseas. So I think it's food tourism is a really big thing for us. I mean, regionally as well, not just nationally. Like the regions need to start pushing what they've got as well. And I know some of the regions do it now, particularly Cromwell, Central Otago through there around stone fruit, which is coming up for them. With the cherries and the apricots or whatever, really pushing that localized nature of where things are coming from. And we need to see that more in the seafood industry by saying this is the fish that's kind of regional to us. This is the fish that we catch, and that's why it's better. Why is the Chatham blue cod better than the blue cod off the Chatham Rise, for instance? Or out of Bluff, whatever. So the Chatham Rise, why is it better than it is out of Bluff? Just really reinforcing that, those stories.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Because it does make a difference,
Totally. Now, with your market stall on the weekends, you're in a fairly lucky position to sort of see and hear and, engage directly with consumers. Have you noticed a rise in home cooking trends featuring seafood, and what's exciting you in that world?
I think what excites me there is a couple of things, right? One is the confidence that people now have about cooking seafood, because there's been fear around cooking seafood for years. I'm going to bugger it up. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll burn it, if I buy it today, I've got to eat it today, because it'll be off by tomorrow. Because years ago that's how it was. People don't recognise how fresh the seafood can be now available to us in the supermarkets or the fishmongers or things like farmers markets. So one is that is that skill level, that willingness to actually get involved and get amongst it. And the other thing is how creative they're being. I think people coming up and will say, I'm doing a Singaporean curry tonight, and I really need a good fish for that, or an Indian curry, or I'm making paella. What do you think I should be looking to do with that, and when should I add this? So they're asking really intriguing questions, which surprised me, right? Because it's not what you think you'd get. I'm crumbing these gurnard fillets, but I'm doing panko crumbs, and I'm going to, okay, so we move from breadcrumbs to panko crumbs now, which it doesn't sound like it's a big thing, but it is a big thing, right? Because they kind of go, I prefer panko crumbs. And that's come from traveling or eating out in other places. So there's willingness. I mean, one of the biggest selling fish that I sell at the market, right, is also most expensive. And that's blue cod at $60 a kilo. So price isn't a factor for these home cooks. I want that fish. I know it. I love it. That's what I want to cook with tonight.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And how is the general state of retail? I mean, you work with an amazing program with your market program, but at general level, how is seafood retail in New Zealand, and what are your thoughts going forward into the next year or so?
Well, I'm not sure how it may affect retail, but there is the rumored closure of the Auckland fish market next year. We can see how that affects, if it affects retail, because we've kind of got the big players, right? Sanford's, Tally's, Sealord, Moana, and they kind of dominate that end of the market as to who they're supplying and how they're supplying, where it's going. So seafood retail is a tough one, I think. There's very few independent fishmongers like myself around. They all pretty much are, owned or operated by one of these big companies. And they're supplying direct into the bid foods, which are also the big guys, or the service food guys, who don't really, they're not fishmongers, mate. They're not designed to set up to handle fresh fish. So that impacts on the retailers as well, because bid food will come along to like a small seafood retailer, let's say like myself, and we'll say to one of my clients, "Oh, we'll do that snapper for $5 a kilo cheaper." No, I can't possibly compete at that, but I know that in a month's time, it's going to be $1 a kilo more expensive than my fish, because that's how sneaky they are, right? And I'm doing what they do to get the business, and they put the price back up. So I think that's one of the things that affects seafood retail. I mean, retail in general is hard, I think, with the rise of the internet and stuff. But, we have a little online business that we do once a week where we have, what we call our D2Cs, direct to consumers. That's where people order directly off our website. We send a newsletter out on a Tuesday that outlines the fish that's going to be landing. There's going to be, they're fishing for on the Wednesday for the Thursday. We dispatch that overnight by ambient temperature couriers to around the country, and that's so people are really getting. I think now they're used to buying other things online. It's not that much of a stretch now to go to fish. I mean, they're definitely tying the water to begin with because they're not quite sure how it's going to arrive at their doorstep. But once they've had it once, they go, that's it. And they're either ordering once a week or once a month. And some of these guys are ordering 5 kilos of fish at a time. So I know they're freezing it down or giving it to their family, giving it to their friends. So I see that as a real positive, and I think there's definitely potential growth for us in that space next year.
And aside from sort of increasing your B2C, your consumer-facing business, what else do you predict for the year of 2025 in seafood in New Zealand? What's your wish, should I say?
What's my wish is that this government would stop its push for austerity and start investing in growth, really. And that would encourage people to sort of get back into the restaurants and supporting them. But I think it's just to stay the course, John, really, and have the faith that we will get there. We keep moving forward and be supportive. We take an active role with our clients of going, how can we be a part of your business rather than just a supplier? Like, what can we do to help you? Be a better restaurant or be a better kitchen, or be a supportive partner rather than just a supplier partner. So that's something that we're going to keep on pushing, and hopefully that works. That people respond to that.
And I guess lastly, Bos, give us a seafood dish that you're looking to prepare in the next sort of while that it's going to sort of really set out what you're doing in 2025.
It's probably the simplest thing, but it's just this afternoon I'm going to start making the prep for what we call over here ikamata, right, which is coconut marinated fish. Right, so I'm going to get some trevally, and it's going to get cured in lime and lemon juice, and then it's going to get mixed tomorrow with coconut cream, spring onions, some chilies, and some tomatoes, and some red onions, and some coriander. Right, and I'll probably sell out 10 kilos of fish for that tomorrow. Just people buying punnets of it. You know why? Because people love it, and it's simple, and it's tasty, and it's good fish, fresh fish, not messed around with too much, and so that's going to feature heavily on my table over the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. But coming up Christmas, New Year's, etc., there's going to be some crayfish on the barbecue because there always is. So I'll probably do my famous crayfish and potato salad with wasabi mayonnaise. That's always a crowd pleaser.
Absolutely. Well, as always, Martin Bosley, Master Fishmonger from Yellow Brick Road in New Zealand. It's been fantastic to catch up. I certainly look forward to sharing some oysters with you at the Sydney Royal at
Indeed. Loving it. Can't wait, mate. Can't wait.
Great. Thanks so much, Boz, and have a great year in 2025. Look forward to catching up.
Yeah, you too, Sos.
Cheers, mate. Bye. This is Fishtales, a seafood podcast. A Deep in the Weeds production. I'm John Susman. Follow us on Instagram at Fishtales Seafood Podcast, or email us at fishtalespodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay tuned for more tales from beneath the surface of the seafood world every Friday on your podcast app.